A Zelda every year for Switch. Well, that is the idea being tossed around after series great Eiji Aonuma appeared on stage at a Zelda music concert in Japan and said this: "I know what you are thinking, Skyward Sword for Switch, right?" And a lot of people were posting about this on Twitter. It's made the rounds, and it sure seems like a fitting way for Link to return to the Switch console in 2019.
Zach, I don't know if you know this. Maybe you've noticed. Maybe you haven't. Nintendo does like re-releasing older games on Nintendo Switch. That's a thing. I don't know. Again, I'm not sure you're aware.
I mean, they like re-releasing Zelda games on everything. But yeah, they've had HD versions, obviously, as we know, of Wind Waker, Twilight Princess. Skyward Sword is next up. And people have been saying, and we've heard some rumors of like, hey, the next Zelda game on Switch is closer than you think. It's not like Breath of the Wild 2, but it just might be this.
And this would make sense. It's too soon for whatever next mainline entry is going to be. I don't think that there's any chance we get a sequel or
not for a while.
Follow-up within the next couple of years. But a return to Skyloft, I can definitely see that. The game was originally released, and here I'm talking about Skyward Sword, in November of 2011. I thought that the game was like a little newer than this, but hey, it's been some time. It's well over 5 years. It's 7 years at this point. So, Zach, is it too soon for this? It is important to note that both of the other big Zelda remakes in Wind Waker and Twilight Princess were a little bit older when they got remade and re-released. They were out for a decade, at least. And for Skyward Sword, 7 or 8 years is going to be the length, depending on when this thing would be released. But these things tend to release in March. So could we be getting a Zelda game in March? A Skyward Sword remake? My instinct is to say no, it's too soon, but Aonuma like talking about it like that, it's definitely gonna pique some interest as it clearly did.
Yeah, I think 8-10 years, like that's semantics. I think the game looks really good. We have in certain ways or others seen this game in HD, and sort of the like paint style I think looks really good. It's a very colorful game, and it's very tried and true Zelda. So I think it would be a nice sort of like alternate option to Breath of the Wild, or in addition to Breath of the Wild, which is obviously the most bold and different Zelda, and then kind of going back tried and true. The motion control issue is one that has been brought up over and over again since Aonuma's comments. How does that factor in? Why is the Switch seeming to add more and more motion control as these games come out versus going more and more in a different direction? But we'll set that aside for now. I think it's a good time for it. The only thing that strikes me as odd is if they did stick to the March, or that sort of Q1, maybe early Q2 release window, you got a pretty packed early year for Switch as far as we know, with Fire Emblem Three Houses, with Yoshi. Where does that fit in? I mean, we've got the No More Heroes stuff. We've got Daemon X Machina. So where do they fit that in? Do they need to use it in a different, month to make more sense? But I think it, all in all, is likely, and I would definitely welcome it.
Same here. And, just to touch on the controls slightly, I think that they would work perfectly, really. The Joy-Con, for the most part, I know like Pokemon has given us like a little bit of an issue with it not being the most precise thing, but generally they do a really good job with that. So I mean, it would still work. You can recreate the Wiimote stuff with the Joy-Con, but I would also hope that they make it so you can play it more traditionally. I know that motion is such an important part of this, but I'm sure they could figure that out as well. But yeah, you're right, it is a busy beginning of the year for Nintendo, and that's the only other thing that gives me pause here. Like, No More Heroes is a digital-only game unless you specifically go buy the more expensive version or whatever. So that's so much smaller in scale. Daemon X, it depends on what kind of push they are going to want to give that. You're right, though. It might be like a little bit too crowded.
Maybe it is something that you move more towards the summer months. But, the motion stuff, it did require the Motion Plus peripheral back in the day, and people didn't really like the fact that it was so waggle heavy. So I do hope that in an HD version of Skyward Sword, one of the changes / upgrades would be a way to play this game completely devoid of motion. I think that'd be really good, especially for the handheld portability. Like, you can't, like, that doesn't work that great, right? You can't do a handheld Skyward Sword HD on the Switch if you're going to require motion. So I think they would have to navigate around that, and hopefully they do in a way that makes the game more approachable for everyone. Would it be weird to you to go back to this style? Do you think it would appeal? Say you're a new Nintendo player and you get a Switch and Breath of the Wild is your first experience with Zelda. Is going back to this going to be a bummer? Do you think they can find fun? I know that this has one of the slower starts in the series, and to a substantial portion of players, it's not one of the favorites. So does it get a second chance to be great on Switch? Does the removal of motion maybe allow for that? Or does this strike people as kind of a strange follow-up after Breath of the Wild's bold moves?
All right, you've touched on both of the big issues that people have with this game. For some people, the motion control. And, for other people, it was that very slow build-up. You're right, this is one of the slower starting up Zelda games. It does take a while to fully kick into gear and for it to really be what you want. And one of those problems is way easier to fix than the other. I feel like you can fix the controls, make it more precise, or remove them. There's things you can do there. The build up to the game is going to be the build up to the game. Like, they're not going to structurally change what the game is, and I don't feel like they should. It's a very divisive Zelda game. A lot of people really love it. Others, they're like, hey, it's one of the worst ones in the series. But it was revolutionary, though. We can't take that away from it. The motion control, and say what you will about Waggle, there was reviews and people saying, hey, I never want to play a Zelda game that doesn't have motion controls again, just because it felt so cool to swing it around and you could pretend to be Link and stuff. People were really into that for a while. I don't think it's that much of a drastic difference from Breath of the Wild. There are very, very different games. I'm not saying they're similar at all, but the core of what makes Zelda is still tied into this game, like they are with all of them. I feel like there is a spirit there, and it maintains it very well. And since it is a little bit more of a traditional Zelda, I feel like it would be a nice change of pace from what Breath of the Wild did, and give some people an opportunity to get back into this. Breath of the Wild was a lot of people's first Zelda game, Zach. Mm-hmm. That's important to note. So going back to something like this, while it could be a little daunting at first, I do think that they would come to appreciate it. And although this game isn't very old, and I feel like
8 years is getting up there at this point.
Yeah, it is, but this is more traditional Zelda. I wasn't using the word traditional, and I didn't want people to think I was talking about the very early Zelda stuff, but I don't know. I feel like this is a good one, and you can go play Twilight Princess or Wind Waker, not on your Switch necessarily, but the Wii U has a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, this game has a roller coaster, so you can't go wrong. I like the idea that we have upgraded so much that before our handheld Zelda experience was taking Ocarina of Time 3D and Majora's Mask 3D on the go with us, and now being able to take Skyward Sword HD on the go with us, to me that's just a really exciting proposition, and it continues to, in a very subtle and small way, bring that idea forward of the Switch being the all Nintendo platform that can experience and enjoy games from past platforms. And while they are starting very slow with their NES catalog, getting some of this over and being able to take it portably, I think would be super fun, and I'd be really excited to go through Skyward Sword. They did make improvements to Wind Waker. They did mess with the overall progression of the game a little bit. They adjusted the speed of animations and text. They made some UI improvements. So there is a chance.
Sailing was changed to
yeah. So there is a chance to make improvements to round this out to be a hopefully better experience, and maybe try and adjust the pacing a little bit. Like you said, can't do a ton there. But I think it would be very cool. I think getting a Zelda game on the Switch every year is a daunting proposition. It's one that may eventually feel oversaturated, but for now, I think it'd be really cool. And again, it just seems like they're really trying to pack 2019 with as many big hitters as possible. And while this is not as exciting as Metroid Prime 4, Luigi's Mansion 3, Animal Crossing, I'm down for a really pretty HD Zelda and a really dungeon diving traditional Zelda on the Switch to take on the go. I would be all over this. Maybe it's something we see announced at their very frequent January direct slot. That's something that comes up a lot. I definitely think this is a high likelihood possibility.
Yeah, and I hadn't thought about it to just this moment, right? This is a Wii game, so it didn't look the best. They can really, really dramatically change how this looks, and not artistically and stylistically, but the detail, the attention to detail. We've seen in Smash Brothers, right? So some of the stages that were converted there from some of the older Smashes to now, and they did such a good job of adding a lot of fine detail and beautifying them up in a lot of ways. And this game is already really pretty to me. It's a different kind of beauty just because it's not really like HD. And having that be on Switch now, looking the way that games can look on Switch, that'll be a real treat just to see visually how they treat this.
Yeah, so let us know in the comments down below if you are pumped for the potential of Skyward Sword HD to be on Switch. How do you feel about a Zelda every year on the platform? Is that a smart move? Is it an oversaturation move? Or is it something that just helps the Nintendo nostalgic? If you just started with Breath of the Wild, I'd love to know if you're excited for this, if this seems like something you want to stay away from, and how the heck are they going to handle motion? Let us know your take in the comments down below, everybody. We'll keep you posted if any new details come out on this front. I wouldn't expect to hear anything until an official announcement. I don't know if Aonuma was supposed to say this as a move to build hype or if it just sort of blurted out off the cuff, but we'll let you know if anything substantial does happen. In the meantime, make sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all the latest and greatest from the Switch. It's ballooning 2019 lineup, and of course Smash Bros in just a few days. In the meantime, thanks so much for watching. Have a fantastic day. For myself and Gabe, SwitchForce out.